Welcome to Beyond the Nudge, the podcast for women over 50 who are ready to grow joyfully, take action with ease, and fully step into their age of empowerment. I'm your host, Kia Eileen, and this is your invitation to go beyond the whispers of intuition, dive deeply into your potential, and create the life and impact you've always dreamed of. Expect monthly themes, transformative insights, powerful frameworks, and practical tools to help you reconnect with your purpose, overcome challenges, and align with your most radiant self. And because wisdom grows in community, I will occasionally be joined by incredible special guests, women with inspiring stories, expert insights, and life changing strategies to share. So, what's in store? Practical wisdom, action tools, and frameworks from spirituality, psychology, and metaphysics to help you grow. Inspiring stories from me and from others who've transformed their lives and embraced their full selves. And empowered action to help you move from dreaming to doing with clarity and confidence. This is more than just a podcast. It's a space for transformation, empowerment, and connection. If you're ready to move beyond the nudge of intuition and into your fullest expression, you are in the right place. So let's get started. Your best you is waiting beyond the nudge. So, welcome, welcome, welcome to episode 8 of Beyond the Nudge. And as we are exploring this month's theme of the courage to change, this week I think is a really important topic. And this week is about fear. Fear not as something to run from, but fear as your teacher. So, do we think that's even possible? Can fear be a teacher? And I think that it can. I think that fear can not only be your teacher, it can be your best advocate. So let's dive in. And I think first I wanted to really share something about how I kind of came to this realization that fear can sometimes be something that moves you forward. So quite some time ago, many, many years ago, before I came to the United Kingdom, I was living in Philadelphia and I was working in New Jersey at the Family Court in New Jersey and in northern New Jersey. And I was driving home one night and we'd been working quite hard on a case. And I was working sort of 14-hour days. It was quite stressful. And I was driving home and um, I was smoking a cigarette, and I don't even really smoke, so I don't even know where I picked this habit up from, but I was smoking a cigarette and blowing it out the window and driving and trying to get home. And I started to feel these chest pains. I was like, oh, that feels a little bit weird. And I'd been quite stressed, so stressed that my dad gave me a blood pressure cuff so that I could monitor my own blood pressure at home. And so I got home and I phoned my parents and I said, I'm having chest pains. And they said, okay, well, my dad said, well, take your blood pressure. And I took it and it was quite high. And he said, okay, well, take it again. And so I took it again and it was still quite high. And he said, and I lived around the corner from the hospital. And he said, I think you should go over to the hospital and just have it checked when you go over. I said, okay. So I went over and explained to the nurses and admissions that I was having chest pains. And they said, okay, well, let's take you back to triage and we'll take your blood pressure. And so they took my blood pressure and it was very high. It was something like 180 over 120 or something. It was very high. And she said to me, right, okay, we're going to take you back because it's possible that you're either having a heart attack or a stroke. And in that moment, everything just kind of stopped because I'm thinking in my mind, well, I haven't even lived yet. I don't want to die. This can't be the end. I haven't really done anything. So they take me back, they whiz me back, and they put all the sort of things on you so they can see your heart on the monitor. And so I've got all these sticky things and wires hanging out. And so I'm there for a while. I'm just watching my heart on this monitor. And I'm sort of saying to myself, gosh, there's so much more that I want to experience. There's so much more that I want to do. And I was not only working, but I was in the midst of divorce. And, it just all seemed to be going wrong. And I was like, I haven't done anything right yet. And so the doctor comes in and he says, well, you're not having a heart attack or a stroke. This is a very serious anxiety attack, a panic attack. I was like, oh gosh, I don't think I've ever had one of those. And he said, well, are you under any stress? At which point I start laughing. And I was thinking to myself, what part of my life isn't stressful? And so he said, I think, you need to think about maybe making some changes. So I went home and I took, I think, a week, maybe two off from work. And during that time, I really began to ask myself, what was I more afraid of? Was I more afraid of the judgment and maybe the criticism and maybe people thinking, like, what is she doing? Or was I really afraid of living fully and what that would mean? And, was I afraid of not living and, carrying on with this life that was great on paper, but that didn't stir my soul? And I decided that what I was really afraid of was not living. I was afraid of maybe dying with my dreams inside of me. I was afraid of dying without fully exploring the fullness of who I was and what life had to offer me. And so I think maybe 6 or 8 months later, I had quit my job and left my apartment and packed my bags. And I was flying over to the UK to begin a new life. And it really did feel like, after everything crumbled, I began this incredible journey of transformation. And so fear was a catalyst for me to expand into something new, into the fullness of me. And so we're going to really begin to talk about how you can use fear for your own life, for your own transformation to help propel you forward. So, first of all, I'd like to say that there are two types of fear. There's rational fear, where there is, a real and present danger, where there's something, the fear is trying to protect you from something. It's trying to help you to survive, and that's completely rational, normal. And then there's irrational fear, and that's really based on your perception. And it's the perception of a threat or a danger. And it's trying to limit you in some way and pull you back. But the brain doesn't really know the difference between rational fear and irrational fear. It just goes in as fear, unless we have the conscious awareness to say which is which, to tell ourselves which is which, and to practice tools and techniques to teach ourselves this is a real fear, this is not a real fear, and I'm going to move through anyway. So it's having that conscious awareness and being able to put into practice knowing when there is a difference. And so I quite often say to myself, and I say to my clients as well, when fear shows up, when you're really, really fearful, and there isn't that real, rational, present danger, when there's really nothing to be afraid of, but there's a perception, a very real perception of fear, know that you are on the cusp, on the brink, on the edge of expansion and transformation. You are on the cusp, on the brink, on the edge of expansion and transformation. And if you know that, and if you know I'm afraid because something marvelous is about to happen, it can instantly shift your perception because the danger is not necessarily real. The danger lies in the perception of uncertainty because your subconscious, your brain wants and loves certainty. And the certainty that exists in your life right now is your comfort zone. And it's called comfort zone because it's really comfortable. It's really nice and warm in your comfort zone. Even if you know it's no longer serving you, at least it's the space that you know. And you have created a certain sense of safety in this space because you've navigated it already. You've done everything in this zone. You know where you are and how to be in this zone. And so when you are pushing yourself and inviting yourself to change, or when change is giving you an invitation to expand, you will have to step into the unknown. You become almost unknown to yourself because of who you have to become in order to step into this new space. And so everything in you is going to be going off bells and whistles and alarms to say, no, 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 we need to stay in this space. But no, you're on the edge of something. And so can you give yourself permission to just push through, keep pushing? The second thing I'd like to offer when that irrational fear comes up, when you are moving through into change and you are imagining a bigger life, bigger relationships, more wealth, whatever it is that you're calling into your life, is that fear can be a mirror. Fear can be a mirror holding ourselves up to be fully seen and to be fully acknowledged. So, fear can show us our deepest desires, and fear can also show us our deepest insecurities. So, when we're pushing, can we ask ourselves, can I honor these desires? And do I have the courage to face these insecurities? So, if you feel that you maybe fear failure, maybe your deepest desire is for success and for a sense of purpose. Maybe that is what is underlying this fear of failure, that you want success and purpose so much that you fear falling down and not achieving it. Or do you fear being seen? Well, maybe underneath that desire is for authenticity and for love, to have someone truly know you and to allow yourself to be fully acknowledged in your fullness. Maybe that's what you deeply desire. And so you're afraid of being fully seen because maybe there's a sense of a fear of rejection under there as well. And do you fear abandonment? Well, maybe as you sit with this fear, maybe your deepest desire is for connection and belonging. Do you deeply desire connection and belonging? And as a result, you fear that if you reach for connection, if you reach for belonging, that you will be without it and feel abandoned. Maybe you fear public speaking because deeply within you, what you desire is to be heard, for someone to truly hear you, to hear your truth, and to value you, and to value your truth, and to acknowledge your truth. So maybe understanding and taking some time to sit with what it is you truly fear and seeing if there's a desire under there that isn't being met in your current experience. Or maybe you fear rejection. And it's, maybe this rejection is triggering some of your deepest insecurities. And maybe one of your insecurities is you don't feel like you're enough. Or maybe you don't feel lovable. And so you fear being rejected. Maybe you fear speaking up, being heard, speaking your truth. maybe standing up for yourself because one of your deepest insecurities is that you won't be heard, or maybe that you are unheard, or that you are easily dismissed. Maybe you feel dismissed and largely unheard, and maybe you fear speaking up because underneath this insecurity is there. Maybe if you have an insecurity for external validation, you might fear stepping out and changing because people will see your failure publicly. And so you don't stretch yourself because you feel that people might judge you. And really, what you're deeply seeking is this external validation. So you have an attachment to external validation, so you don't stretch and push yourself because you don't want to fail publicly. Or maybe you are being invited to change and to step forward, but you get stuck and you're not able to take action. Is there an insecurity there around your self-worth, sense of unworthiness, an unworthiness of trying, maybe not feeling good enough, or maybe you don't trust yourself, you don't acknowledge yourself, you don't feel that you are capable, and so you prevent yourself from moving forward. So, you know, if you're in, if you're into shadow work, Jung talks about being able to face the shadow. And fear really can be a mirror to those deepest things that remain largely unacknowledged by us. And so, can we take that fear as a great entryway into what lies at our deepest core to be addressed, acknowledged, validated, and integrated into the whole of who we are? Everything in the universe wants acknowledgement. Everything wants acknowledgement, especially those parts of us that we're afraid of acknowledging or afraid of allowing those parts to be seen. We have to see them first. So can we acknowledge our desires? And can we soothe our insecurities? Can we allow our insecurities space to express what they truly want so that we can integrate those spaces into us and then move forward through the fear? And when we're thinking about fear being a mirror, sometimes those fears come up, and those spaces where we're not fully seeing ourselves, we're not fully allowing ourselves to be seen, is because somewhere deep inside we fear our greatness. We fear the fullness of who we are. Maybe there's a story there that we're too much, we're too loud. And so we've gotten into the practice of shrinking and hiding. And so, can you allow all of those parts of you to emerge? And can you give yourself permission to be great? Because this is what I want for you, because I know that you are great. So, number three, this is an interesting one and one that I really, really like. So, fear and excitement are biologically identical. They're biologically identical because they both trigger the same response in the sympathetic nervous system. When you fear, when you feel fear or excitement, you'll have the same response. So you might have rapid breathing, dilated pupils, sweaty palms, adrenaline release, maybe there's dry mouth. Those physical responses are exactly the same, whether you're fearful or whether you're excited. And the important difference between the two is your perception. So if you are angled more towards seeing the fear as a threat, it will trigger the stress response in your body, and your entire being will say, "This is something that I need to be afraid of." Or if you can see this stimulus, whatever is happening, as an opportunity, it will trigger dopamine, the dopamine response in your body, and it will be received by your body in a totally different way. And so, can we consciously move forward with excitement as opposed to fear? If the fear, with what's coming up, if there's no immediate danger, then can you say to yourself, "Oh, this is an opportunity," instead of something to fear? So, perhaps you're about to step out on stage for a talk, or you're about to go into an interview, or you're about to go on a first date, whatever that might be. If you're saying to yourself, "I'm terrified, I'm really fearful, I'm scared," that fear is going to kick in, and the fight, flight, or freeze response will kick in. Can you take a step back and say, "I welcome this as an opportunity for my expansion. I welcome this as an opportunity for my expansion." And then feel in the body where that fear might be sitting. So maybe it's in your chest, or maybe it's in your belly. And so, with me, wherever you are, maybe you can think of a time or a situation that makes you feel a little bit anxious, a little bit fearful. And you know that you have to do something. You know that you have to push yourself in some way, but you're holding yourself back. So, feel into the body where that sensation is. Place your hand there, and then take 6 deep breaths. Breathe right into that spot by taking a deep breath in and breathing out. Deep breath in, 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 breathing out. And one more deep breath in and breathing out. 6 deep breaths will help you to change your state. So if you are feeling fearful in any given moment, you are 6 breaths away from excitement. If there is no immediate danger, can you change your perception? Can you give yourself permission to change yourself and change your perception into excitement, to allow your expansion? Can you continue to move forward and allow this expansion through excitement? Fear does not have to be your end result. Number 4, when you're dealing with fear, especially if it's an irrational fear, can you learn who is in charge? Who's in charge in this moment? Is it your soul guiding you through, or is it your ego, your subconscious, trying to keep you safe and hold you back? Is it your soul moving you forward, or is it your ego saying, "No, no, no, we're good. Let's stay here. I'm good here." As we've said before, and if you've heard some of my other podcasts, your subconscious, your ego is never going to give you permission to change, to expand, to move forward, because that means you're moving forward into uncertainty. What do we know about our brains and our subconscious? Well, our brain loves certainty. Our brain loves patterns. And knowing that it has done something before and has guided you through a process and kept you safe, kept you from not dying. And so it's not going to want to allow you to try this something new because it hasn't tested the waters yet. And so it's important to know the difference between something that's propelling you forward and something that's keeping you sort of tethered to an old version of your life, an old version with you. So knowing the difference, knowing when you're moving away from something or sinking into comfort zone paralysis. And I like to say, take it to the body. Take it to the body, baby. So when you are confronted with a choice about choosing moving forward or staying where you are, sink inside of your body, sink inside of your breath, and notice where that energy is. Notice where that energy, that voice is coming from. And does that energy feel expansive? Does it feel light? Does it feel airy? Does it feel warm? Does it feel positive? Or does it feel as if it's closing in and constricted and maybe cold and maybe a little bit hard? And does it feel like there's no space, like it's closing in? And so you can begin to ask yourself, well, what is the sensation that I want to take forward in my life? Do I want to feel expansive or do I want to feel constricted? And I think in the last episode or the episode before that, we talked about knowing your yes and your no inside of your body. So where does that yes come from and where does that no come from? And can you lean into that? Can you trust those sensations? And if the feeling is one of constriction, of limitation, of being closed in and closed down, can you first of all ask that sensation, that fear, what are you trying to protect me from? What are you trying to protect me from? And then just listen. You will get an answer. It might say that I'm trying to protect you from failure. I'm trying to protect you from being laughed at. I'm trying to protect you from responsibility. I'm trying to protect you from overwhelm. Listen to those answers. Those answers are coming from someplace, and how can you address that information that is coming through? And once you've listened, gotten your answers, and decided how you'd like to bring relief and release to that part of you that is feeling as if it wants to be held back, can you then say to that energy, what would happen if I moved forward anyway? What would happen if I moved forward anyway, if I just kept going? 9 times out of 10, in those answers, you will get permission to just keep going. And what do you need to hear to give yourself permission to keep moving forward, even in the face of fear? Knowing what's real and what's not, what feels expansive and what feels constricted, what feels warm and glowing, and what feels a bit, cold and yes, maybe, not comfortable. Knowing which is which, and can you give yourself permission? Once you've listened to what it is trying to teach you, can you give yourself permission to just keep going, knowing that you are there on the other side? And as we were talking about, soul guidance, well, fear can also be a wonderful spiritual teacher. Fear can be an incredible gateway into spiritual growth and development. Many spiritual practices and shamanic practices um, have an understanding that fear can be your gateway. Fear can be a passageway, this sort of necessary growth space is an entryway, almost a rite of passage to rise to the challenge, to step into your greatness. I love talking about this in alchemy, alchemical terms. And so, if you're thinking about Young and the Shadow. In alchemical terms, it's called the Negredo phase, the Negredo phase, the Negredo phase. And Negredo means blackness. And so quite often you might hear the dark night of the soul. And I think I experienced this back when I was in America, the story that I shared earlier. It seemed as though everything was crumbling around me. Everything was going wrong. I had lived the life. I had sort of checked off all of the boxes and nothing seemed to be going right. What was I doing wrong? And I didn't realize that the crumbling away was necessary to open the gateway to a truer version of me. And so we sometimes must see that our false selves, the false identities that we carry forward in the world, are not serving us. And so this dark night that, feels like everything's going wrong, maybe your relationships are crumbling, maybe the job isn't what you had hoped, maybe financially you're not as secure as you would like, and maybe everything's kind of happening and at the same time, maybe you're experiencing health challenges and you don't feel like yourself, and it feels like nothing's working. Maybe that's your invitation to move through and to let it go. Because this crumbling, this dark night of the soul is a sacred process, a sacred burning away of all that is no longer serving you and your highest good. Because in alchemy, this is not about adding anything new. It's about eliminating what was false to begin with. It's not about adding anything new. It's about eliminating what was false to begin with. What have you been carrying forward that has been false? That hasn't been you, that hasn't been for you? A lot of times we get these roles and these identities, and we think we're doing the right thing, but there's something inside of us that says, I feel like there's something more. I feel like there's something greater out there for me. Can you allow the burning away? Can you allow that shift to happen and step into the fear, knowing that this is the gateway for your transformation? And can you say to yourself, fear is not my enemy, it is my initiation into gold. Fear is not my enemy, it is my initiation into gold. This falling away is necessary for me to live my truth. This falling away is necessary for me to shine like the diamond that is inside of me, to allow my light to be fully seen and experienced, first of all, by me and then by the world. Can I let go everything that I thought I needed in order to become the very thing that I needed the most? And so can you allow that burning away? Can you invite it in and say, thank you? Thank you for removing the lies that I have been carrying all of this time. I love the alchemy of change. And so, in summary, let's just talk about, let's just make sure that we've gotten all of the sort of lessons or the ways that fear can be our best teacher. So, when faced with fear as you are invited to change, first of all, can you face it? Can you face it and ask, what are you seeing? What are you teaching me here? I see you. I acknowledge you. Fear, what is it you are teaching me? I am open to learn. I am open to learn and to grow. Number two, please know that you are on the edge of transformation. It is all there for you. You are on the edge, the cusp of transformation. and expansion. Are you ready? I know you are. Can you ask yourself 3, what if I allowed myself to be great? What if I allowed myself to be great? What if I acknowledged my deepest desires and faced my deepest insecurities? Can I be vulnerable to myself? And can I allow myself to step into my greatness, knowing that that is my primary purpose here on earth, to step into my greatness? Can I be conscious and aware of fear when it arises, breathe into it, and allow excitement to fill me? Can I change my perception consciously to step into excitement? Remember, you are 6 breaths away. If you're in fear state, you're 6 breaths away from excitement. Can you allow yourself to do that? Can you decide who's in charge? Is it your truth or is it your ego? Remember to take it to the body, sink into the body. Where is that space? Can you allow the truth of who you are to emerge? Does it feel expansive? Does it feel warm? Does it feel light? Does it feel like love? Then grab that, head toward that. And if it is the fear, just say, what is it? What is it what is it you're trying to show me? And what would happen if I moved through anyway? And can you alchemize the fear? Can you move through the darkness, the nigredo? And can you transform that darkness into gold? Because I certainly know that you are. And with all of that, can you give yourself permission this week to take one small step through something? Maybe you're needing to make a decision, or you're needing to do a project, or you need to show up on social media, whatever that might be. Can you take that one step through the fear to transform yourself into the gold that I know lies within you? I believe in you. I love you. I know that the best version of you is here. I see it. I feel it. And I'm really hoping that these episodes are helping you to feel the same. Hashtag fear as your teacher. So I want to thank you for joining me on this episode, this latest episode of Beyond the Nudge. It's been an absolute pleasure to share this space with you again today. I hope that you are leaving this episode feeling inspired and empowered and ready to take that bold next step into what I'm calling 2025, which is your year of significance. Remember, this is just the beginning. We have so much more to explore together. So be sure to tune into the next episode, episode 9, where we will dive into becoming the change that you want to see. There's a lot happening in our world, and we want someone else to take the reins, but can we be the change that we want to see in the world? And how do we embody that best version to move forward? So before we wrap up, I'd love to share 2 causes that are close to my heart. I proudly support Women for Women International, an incredible organization empowering women in war-torn countries to rebuild their lives, and Mantle of Hope in northern Uganda, a charity offering hope and support to the victims of sex trafficking and domestic violence. If you're moved to make a difference, I encourage you to learn more about their transformative work and consider joining me in supporting them. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify or Substack. Leave a review, and please share this episode with someone who could use a little nudge of her own. Because remember, your best you is waiting beyond the nudge. See you next time.